Today we'll tackle one of my favorite and most requested topics, that being the best spot for gator viewing and photography. While there are several notable areas on the Gulf Coast for this endeavor, we're going to take our initial trip through the Armand Bayou Nature Preserve, where I'll introduce you to a number of my familiar and often misunderstood friends. In fair conditions, you're sure to see several gators throughout, but in this video, we'll focus on some of the most notable and significant bayou residents native to the area and where you're most likely to find them. To start, we'll head right from the launch at Bay Area Park. Once you head under the Bay Area Boulevard Bridge, keep left and hug the western bank around the first shoal. Here at stop number 1, you'll occasionally see a native 6-footer that sometimes suns on the southernmost point. From there, follow the islet around and keep the route that takes you to Big Island Slough. Here at stop number 2, on the left, just before the curve, you'll pretty frequently encounter Levi, another good-natured 6-footer that likes to relax in a small alcove on the bank. As you proceed, you may also come across some smaller gators hanging out on the left. From here, you have the option to keep right onto Big Island Slough. However, I've only seen a handful on this route in my many years of paddling here. For the best viewing opportunities, you'll want to detour left onto the more open stretch leading deeper into the northern portion of the preserve. As you get to the right turn, which is stop number 3, you may see 1 or 2 sunning on the marsh bar to your right. They used to nearly always be laid out here, but for some reason, they're much less present at this location as of late. As you traverse right on what might be considered nearly a hairpin turn, you'll be approaching stop number 4. Here, you're extremely likely to encounter Chapa, who is incidentally named after Dr. Aaron Chapa, who is top tier for nutrition and chiropractic services in the Bay Area. He's approximately 9 to 10 feet by my estimation, and likes to post up on the starboard side at the apex of the curve. There's also usually a smaller gator or two within several yards of Chapa. Keep on the meandering waterway. When the course begins to bear right, you'll be approaching stop number 5. Again, keep an eye on the starboard side, as it's fairly common to see Judah, who's just about 10 to 10.5 feet. You'll sometimes see 2 other slightly smaller gators in the immediate vicinity as well. Once again, keep to the course. You'll then reach a point where there's a pretty substantial alcove on the left, but be sure to keep to the route which meanders right. Here, you're likely to see a familiar 7-footer that is often found patrolling the area back and forth. Every once in a while, he'll be posted on the starboard bank just after the turn. This is stop number 6. Now we get into what has been dubbed by some as Alligator Alley. The bayou will hook right again. To your port side, you'll see 2 small coves that pretty consistently house various gators. Just past the coves in the port side, you may see Priscilla. She seems a bit temperamental some of the time, as she'll often splash dramatically into the water as a craft approaches. This is stop 7. Stop 8 is almost immediately after this, where the bayou hangs a sharp left. This is where the big one most often resides. Fred is around 13 feet and maybe a hair over, as my kayak is 14.5 feet and he's nearly as long. As always, exercise diligence and grant as much room as possible. Though I've found Fred to be as passive as they come, as he's scarcely ever even flinched as I've floated past. Seeing Fred is always a treat, as is the expressions on the faces of those encountering him for the first time. Be sure to have your camera prepped for this one. Keep to the bayou bend. There's a fair chance you'll see a few on this stretch. You'll eventually come to an area that has two small coves slightly offset on both sides, which is stop 9. It's common to see a 5-footer on the bank to your left. Immediately after, look to your right. Here you'll sometimes see Stumpy, a relatively small gator with one appendage missing and a grumpy demeanor to match. This one may not be visible until you're slightly past the cove, as he likes to nestle into a recess on the bank. Paddle on and you'll come to a point where the bayou bends right. Keep just a bit of distance as you come around the corner so as not to spook one that is frequently located on the starboard bank. This is stop number 10. Not far after this bend, you'll arrive at stop 11. I have very occasionally seen Fred nestled in the mire of the small islet. More often, there's a smaller fellow on the bank just past it. Continue around a fishhook-oriented path, and you're likely to see one on the port bank at a point just before the bayou bends left. This gator has the distinction of being the only one I've seen to post up facing away from the water with its tail draped whimsically over the bank on several occasions. This is stop 12. From here we keep following the waterway until you come to an intersection. If you keep straight, you'll end up at Genoa Red Bluff Road and will not be able to go much farther at this point. However, if you bear left, this will take you into the less traveled tract of the bayou. As you continue to bear left, you'll often encounter a medium-sized gator at stop 13. This one seems a bit timid and is prone to thrashing into the water with little warning, so be sure to approach this one quietly and calmly if you're looking to snap a picture. From this point, things get cramped in a hurry, so I would recommend some sharpened diligence as you proceed into the upcoming tight stretches. Only a short trek around the bend from there, you'll come to the final spot at stop 14. Here you'll often find the only other gator on this side that might give Fred a run for his money. It's here, under the shadows of the tree canopy, that you're likely to get a glimpse of Casper. He's another 13-plus footer that can seem pretty imposing in the low light, and he's a bit more testy than Fred as he's thrashed into the channel every time I've gotten relatively close. I will advocate an extra measure of diligence around this one, and throughout this portion of the paddle at large. I've never had an issue with Casper, but the narrow width of this section doesn't give him as extensive an escape option as the more open sections. And I would not relish inadvertently getting on top of this one. It is also back here that I've had an approximately 7-footer's head surface only a foot or so from me. I think we alarmed each other equally as our eyes both widened and we both withdrew to the best of our ability. This does it for the most notable spots on Armand Bayou's northern portion. When conditions are good, you're almost assured to see several scattered about, so keep your diligence throughout, not just at the notable points. I'll echo my repeated sentiments on the topic of kayaking in close proximity to the American alligator. They are most often misunderstood. They are most often quite passive. There is not cause for alarm when one enters the water from a nearby bank, as it is just their preferred method of making distance. I always advocate granting them that concession whenever possible. It is advisable to familiarize yourself with mating seasons and patterns, and to grant deliberate effort to staying away from nests when the hatchlings are on their way. If you're apprehensive, it's understandable. Just try to get an experienced paddle partner to guide you on your first outing. In so doing, it's most likely that your misconceptions will be righted, and you'll come to respect and appreciate these majestic bayou natives more. Be sure to check out some more GCK paddle route and wildlife videos. Paddle safe, and God bless.